Welcome to the Node.js Technical Steering Committee meeting, 27th October 2021. To start with, are there any announcements?
Yes, we transitioned Node 16 to LTS yesterday. So Node.js 16 is now a long-term support release with the code name Gallium.
Okay.
And I believe we are welcoming Richard to the TSC this week.
I'm sorry, what is that?
Sorry, I will.
Sorry, Tobias, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, maybe I wasn't present last week. My bad.
We can welcome Richard to the TSC a second time. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you.
There are two people waiting to be promoted. Girish, if you want to make me a co-host, I can take care of that stuff, or you can just keep doing it.
Okay, right now let me promote them and I will worry about that in a minute.
Or not at all.
Okay. So we'll follow the agenda in the issue 1108 to start with. The first one in the agenda is add info on project usage on Cavity 40506.
I think that's been merged.
Yes, it's been landed. Someone already put in notes, landed, nothing to discuss this week. I'm not sure if that was Michael Dawson being helpful or someone else did that.
Yeah, I see it as merged. So I assume that there is no other action pending on this. So moving on to the next one, which is add initial list of technical priorities 40235.
I believe that is also a Michael Dawson powered pull request that might need to wait for him to be here, but we can take a quick look and confirm that.
Yeah. Looks like it has sufficient approvals with 0 rejections or 0 change request, etc. But yeah, you're right. We should wait for Michael to come back and make a statement on that. Moving on.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Somewhat related to that, in the next 10 meeting just now, there were plans made for a mini summit, another mini summit on the 18th of November. It's in the Node.js org calendar, and they're looking at covering types and single executable apps. So just related to the technical priorities, they're planning a mini summit to deep dive into those two topics.
I'm sorry, Beth, you said it was related to, they want to cover types, and what was the other thing?
Single executable applications.
Thanks.
All right. Moving on to the next one, which is rename the default branch from master to main. Issue number 33864.
I'm a little unsure why that is here. It's been there for a very long time. Is there some action we need to do on that, or?
So Michael every week seems to keep, or someone, other people too, but seems to be doing, a few repos. I know Girish has done some as well, but this can be, the last repo that will be done is the core repo. And I think we're kind of waiting to close it on that happening. And that's going to be the one with the most risk and trickiness because, it has the most automation, and a lot of the automation may depend on the name of the branch and things like that. Yeah, I don't. But are you suggesting that maybe it just doesn't need to be on the agenda every week?
Isn't it better to put it back on the agenda once there is a PR for the rename, or and then label that PR with the TSC label?
So I may be wrong here, but at least if I can recall the history, originally there were many repos which needed this migration, and Michael used this issue as a tracker for doing that, reminding people constantly about the requirement of helping with each repo. I was helping with a couple of repos, and others were helping with other repos, etc. So that was the reason why it was featuring in this meeting recursively. But I don't know at this point. It's just the core repo that is left with, or are there any actions?
No, there's at least 3 repos owned by build that need to be renamed, including the main build repo, which is probably going to be a bit messy. Yeah, I think there's some others as well. We're basically getting down to the harder ones to do, or the ones that have had very little activity in them. Not that they're mothballable, but they're just there and just require people to have the time to go in and sort of spot the issues and do the renames and things. So I've got some of the build owned repos. We have to evaluate the actual build repo itself, because obviously things like Jenkins touches it, and there's all sorts of things could break with build. In the same way with the Node core repo. It's almost like this is a strategic initiative rather than something that needs to be brought up every in terms of concrete things. But yeah, I don't know.
I think worry is that if we removed it from here, we would just not make progress and defer the hard repos indefinitely.
I agree. Yep.
We may do that anyway, but yeah, I think it increases the probability of that happening. I'm okay with leaving it on the agenda.
Yeah, I'm also okay. So the key question there is if and when we are willing to do Node.js node, which will be the most prominent one to send a message, and then the rest let them be to some extent. That would be my approach and what I would recommend. So it's there is a lot of those that needs to take. In a lot of those is a lot of work for not so much gain to some extent. Okay, it's changing from master to main is a statement position. So it's the moment you migrate the main one or the main ones, the one that take the most traffic, then I think we might be good. I don't know. Like there's a long tail of repos in the node.org that have no traffic whatsoever. So I'm not sure if migrating those is actually, worthwhile.
So, well, we already did migrate pretty much all of them. I mean, there's really just a small number left. But I wonder, Richard, if it makes sense to add the build agenda to this item so that it ends up on the build working groups meeting agenda, and we can make it a priority there, perhaps. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I can do that. We tend not to have that many build group meetings, but yeah, we can add it.
I know. I'm on the working group, and I haven't been to one in a long time mostly because for various reasons, but cancellations of a lot of them is a big one. Anyway.
Yeah, no objections to adding it. Also adding it to that.
All right. So we basically retain this in this repo, in this issue as well, so as to get an attention to that. The next one in the agenda is migration of core modules to prime modules, issue number 30697. So the action I have taken on this is to initiate a voting procedure within the TSC, because we spend a lot of time in discussing various trade-offs and various possibilities, and we could not converge. Now, the good thing is that we have collected all opinions and insights, and we have converged into 3 discrete options, and that is documented in TSC repo issue 1104. I am waiting for 1 more month to pass before we actually initiate the voting, basically to fulfill option number 1, which is migrate for a subset only, and to define what that subset would be looking like. I haven't got sufficient input on that, so I plan to ping people who have provided the insights about these options. I'm hopeful to get complete information in 1 week's time. Probably in next week, we should start the voting. Any questions on that? If not, we move on. So the next one in the agenda is updated security team to reflect the status quo in issue number 1102.
You want to take this, Matteo, or should I?
Yeah, I can take this. So it is the problem. Like I'm going to state the problem and the why I opened this up. Okay, in a very aggressive way to some extent. Sorry for being aggressive. There has been a list of people in the security team that are not doing any security triaging anymore. So by the look of it, we have a lot of people doing security work as part of Node.js. Note that most of those tend to align to TSC members, or former TSC members that have not been removed from there when they dropped them, when they went away from the TSC. Generically, we are in trouble because I've been for, I don't know, 1 year, close to 1 year, the major triager of Node.js security vulnerabilities. And more importantly, even if I'm not replying, if I don't triage, nobody triage. Like now there is Vlad Vlad is there and can help every now and then, but nothing's very little is there's very little help on HackerOne. Now, I would also add that some of the discussions that are happening in there can be very long and to some extent emotionally draining in certain cases, like in some cases. I don't know if you're familiar with bullshit asymmetry principle. It's from time to time you need to invest double the amount of energy to refute bullshit. So, and you are essentially, if it was for some of the security researchers, we will have 1 vulnerability per week. So among the various range of topics, okay? So, even stuff that is internal and not used by anybody is a security vulnerability. Like if, it's impossible to cause to exploit this. They will try to get a CV out of it, okay, or a bounty. So fending off this is a lot of work. So I ended up being I am a little bit strained, and it's a little bit of a thankless job to some extent. Like it's because you don't, like, we only see the ones that are successful. You, the TSC member, can see all the activity, but the board only see the ones that are actual vulnerabilities. So the fending off is not there. So I opened this PR, essentially removing all the people that are not doing any security work, that are not doing triaging in the last while, include from Ben, Colin, Fedor, James Nell, Miles, Robert, who is on the call, Shijeki, that it's been a long time since you've done any security work for Node, and Watson. These will need to be reflected in the HackerOne after it lands. So, but again, I opened this issue, but then somebody told me that I did not do it correctly because these were synchronized with the tool from the GitHub work. So probably the thing is to remove those people from the from that team. So anyhow, that's my that's the bit. Sorry.
So and then the next issue on the agenda, I opened after some discussion with Matteo in that issue, in the issue we're talking about now, which is adding security triaging to core, repo governance, and or the charter. But it's largely what it's really about is establishing a triage team, and so like one that actually reflects reality. So maybe Matteo can be triaging for a week, and Danielle can triage for a week, and Michael can triage for a week, that kind of thing. I think that basically, I guess I'm kind of volunteering to sort of just take on both of these issues and try to like push them to completion. So like on the one hand, revise these security teams and make the listing in the repository, and for that matter, access on HackerOne reflect reality. That we just, we have a lot of people who aren't involved. We have a fair number of people who aren't involved in the project anymore who still have security access, and it's probably, no, it's definitely not a good idea to give people privileged access to information who don't need it. So we should fix that. And then the other thing is the other problem that Matteo is alluding to, which is that he's the only person. He's largely the only. He's doing the bulk of the work here, and is burning out. And we've had this problem before with other people doing security work, and so want to establish invested people who, can sort of share the load a little bit, so it doesn't all fall to Matteo. So I guess, we can talk about this more here if anybody has things they want to contribute or discuss. I'm especially interested if anybody is like, I want to do more, and I don't have a good reason why I haven't been doing more. So and then because my intention is to figure out a small group of people, 6 to 8 people, hopefully, we can just get together in a different meeting and just hash everything out about how things can work better.
Yeah, I can try to spend more time triaging. I felt I was mostly included to help sort out certain already triaged issues, and that's mostly what I've been doing there. When Matteo chases me and asks for help, then I try to help out solving specific issues. But I can try to do some triaging as well. I don't know how much time I have, but if you'd give me another 2 weeks or so try to contribute something, that would be appreciated.
I don't think we're going to be doing anything rash in the next 2 weeks, but I do think one thing I want to do is consolidate documentation about a triaging process, because I don't think I don't know that we have a single set of documents about what our practices are. So like, for example, I'll often get an email notification that there's a CVE waiting to be approved or not, or whatever. And I don't actually know what the process is for that, like who gets to decide and what the criteria are. So
you guess, you can guess, Rich. You can guess.
Matteo chooses.
Matteo and Dan. Before that was Dan and Matteo.
Yeah.
And before that was Dan and Matteo, and maybe a few others, but there was no. Given that there is so low of an involvement, I started to, every time I ask a message, it's, does anybody agree? Otherwise, I will do what I want, what I think it should be done in 48 hours. Okay, is if you want to object, and usually a lot of the time is only 1 or 2 people that reply and thank Rich for, at least saying something here in some of the cases. But, a lot, like 10 something people.
Overstamp whatever Matteo says.
It's that's the process. It should not be the process. Okay. I'm saying that should not, what it boils down to being the process. Okay. Which come from the lack of, I think, yes. So it's, we should talk about that, Michael, in the private section. Okay, I can explain a little bit better.
So, again, unless there's people, I wonder if we should, like, I don't know if there's really a whole lot to talk about with this stuff other than, hey, is anybody interested? There's a lot to do, and I guess I'm volunteering to, and I'm happy to step aside if somebody else wants to volunteer to figure all this stuff out. But I'm offering to do it. So I think that's kind of where that's at.
One question I have, referencing the first PR, that's removing some folks from the security team. Is it correct that at the moment all TSC members have access to HackerOne? Do we expect that to change? Should it just be
No,
the security
it's not. It's not going to change. It's more reflecting who is responsible for things.
for the activities?
That was about specifically triaging, and also about like people who are sort of emeritus security that we probably want to not have. But yeah, TSC, no expectation that TSC access will change. If you're on the TSC, you have access.
Sure, makes sense.
Well, also because most of the TSC member needs to have access anyway for the follow-up steps. So essentially, HackerOne is a bug tracker for security things. Okay, if we could use something else if we wanted to, if we had anything, but it seems that the best tool that we can use for that job, essentially. It also handles bounties, which is nice, which is, I find useful, at least for people that are actually doing meaningful security work.
I guess one question I have over, there was a comment made earlier about people not being taken out of the list when they sort of step down from the TSC. I was wondering if that's an omission in, say, the offboarding process, or is that just because
I think so.
they were intended to stay on? And
It's on the offboarding. It's on the offboarding process. There are people that we've made decisions to keep, like Ben Nordhaus as an example, for example.
Yeah, but Ben has gone for a long time. So
right, but when he departed, the decision was made that because he was at the time doing triage. Yeah,
that's fair enough.
What we don't do is we don't review the list frequently, and we don't solicit people to join. So those are the missing steps.
Yeah, I guess one observation I have is obviously I'm new to the TSC, but previously when I was doing security releases and I didn't have access to HackerOne, that made some of the security release preparation interesting, where I was trying to backport things to like the earlier, say, Node 12 LTS, but wasn't able to access the actual vulnerability details to even get like reproduction steps, which made things very interesting. And sort of I had to be added individually onto individual reports. So yeah, I think most of the releases now are on the TSC, but that is one of the things maybe
I think I think Miles at one point advocated that if you're a releaser, we should really try to consider releasers or make releasers more or less a subset of the TSC for a lot of those reasons, that there's just like friction. You have the keys to the kingdom anyway, and there's all this friction if you're not. But anyway, I'm going to stop talking now so other people can talk.
Okay. So, Rich, do you think the issue 1100 add security triaging to core repo warrants a separate discussion, or you think it has been covered?
I believe it's been covered. I don't know if anyone else feels differently.
All right, so that is the list of stated items in the issue. I remember Michael used to discuss also on the strategic initiatives. Unfortunately, I don't know the list and I don't know who are the owners.
Although Joy added startup performance to the minutes, which I don't know if she wants to read them or I can read them if audio is a problem.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Guess I'll just read them. It's been a while since I updated about startup performance in the TSC meeting. So I guess I'll just do one. So I landed most precursor requests for the userland snapshot prototype, and I explored some snapshot options suggested by the meeting. We are also discussing about maybe other than the startup snapshot that VA currently has, maybe also try implementing some sort of wrapper around their prototype of web snapshots, which is like a smaller version of startup snapshot that only like snapshot functions and objects. So the userland snapshot prototype is currently functional with the TypeScript compiler, meaning that you can snapshot the TypeScript compiler and then start it up again to compile snippets. It still needs APIs for state synchronization and maybe a proper workaround for fast APIs. Currently, I just comment out the fast API versions of the things that we use them for. Or if we don't want to like use workarounds, maybe add support in V8 for that. But yeah, those are the two main blockers right now. That's all for startup for performance.
Thank you. And I see Michael is typing nothing of note for V8 currency. So that just leaves us with core promise APIs.
Yeah, no, nothing on this point either.
All right, then.
So is that the full list of strategic initiatives? Okay. So that means we are towards the end of the public session. I will stop the live streaming if people can stick around for private discussion.